In nomine Dinastri Satanae Rusapari Excelsi. In nomine Domini Mundi Est Satanae. In Domus Dei Order Metasium. In nomine Spiritus Domini Mundi Est Luciferi. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite dark sorcerer here. And tonight I want to bring something to your attention. Something of ancient folklore and myth. And I find it interesting and intriguing at the same time that through meditation and intense study, I have been led to these lovely ladies of ancient Greek mythology, ancient folklore, even. I found it very interesting because of the fact when I look around in the world today, this world is literally going to hell in a handbag. You've heard the term death omens, the harbingers of doom. But what does this really mean? When we look into many different pantheons, different regions of the world, we see things like the black dog, the hellhound, the ghoul, the lycanthrope, the vampire, the zombie, the wraith, the reaver, even the banshee. Okay? But one group has escaped these categories. They are literally overlooked. So tonight I'd like to discuss them a little bit. There are three classifications of these lovely ladies, three different storylines. And it comes to you by different traditions, different perceptions, if you will, on who these lovely ladies are. One story tells the tale of sirens luring sailors to their death. In some instances, the ships of these sailors would meet a very violent end on the rocky cliffs, or at least the underwater reefs, as they tried to follow the Sirens Song. Others, those who would be classified as lucky or unlucky, would literally jump overboard just to get to these ladies, only to drown in the ocean, the depths of the ocean. And what's ironic is that it was said that no man could resist these lovely ladies. And it really comes down to the second story, too, because of the fact that it was said that certain individuals, like, say, Ulysses, or Odysseus, I should say, from Homer's Odyssey, tied himself to the mast of the ship after ordering his men to put wax or candle wax into their ears so that they would not be persuaded to commit genocide or suicide in a mass way. And they could carry out his instructions by sailing past these islands. Yet he himself was left vulnerable to this Sirens Song, this lore of seduction. He heard the full brunt of it, but could not do anything because he was tied to the mast of the ship. His own men obeyed his command and did nothing to help him. But again, we also see the same story with Jason and the Argonauts, where the hero, who was not, or I should say, did not give in to the temptations of these lovely ladies, carried on their way, rescued the damsel in distress, or carried out some form of honorable challenge, some form of adventure, much like you see out of the Viking lore. But in this case, they went in and they conquered and they left. One of the tales showed Jason and the Argonauts going up against these ladies, and only someone pure that did not fall prelude to the Sirens Song could avoid the death sentence that it brings. And I found this very interesting because of the fact that in some cases, some of these lores, like in the third stories, is that these ladies, in some of the depictions, were children of the gods. Some were born into Hades' domain, hell, if you wish. Some were born into Poseidon in the sea. Others were born into Zeus in the celestial realms, service-wise. But they were all servants. They were all these lovely goddesses that performed a duty. In some cases, if a siren failed to collect a bounty, a quota, if you wish, is what we call it today in business, then that siren would die by its own hand. It would just simply commit self-suicide. But their job was to purify and prepare the host, the very soul of a man, woman, or child, as harbingers of doom, despair, death, and lure them to their forever resting domain. So if somebody resisted them, then these ladies would commit suicide. But yet if they succeeded, then they really did forge that soul, preparing it for the everlasting, peaceful, blissful rest. And this is something that is very intriguing throughout Greek literature. I mean, you've seen everything from these Greek heroes to tales such as Homer's Odyssey, Jason and the Argonauts, even ancient folklore that depict these, depending on who they were born from, as having wings to fly over ships, to being half human and half fish, much like the mermaid mythos. If they were born unto Poseidon, Lord of the Seas, or that of fire and brimstone, leading you to hell, if they were forged by, that's right, Hades himself. Persephone, Hades. Okay? And I find that it's very interesting to see the different connotations of depictions. Not just the the depictions themselves of being almost harpy-like in some cases, others just like you and I, others like ancient gods, such as the such as Medusa, for an example, half serpent, half human, female. But they were always women. I found that very interesting, very intriguing. Those who served them were rewarded for their loyalty and their trust, their complete and utter dedication, whereas the victims were sent off to some domain, be it loneliness, despair, death, torture, such as in the underworld, mythos, or that of celestial bliss like the Elysian fields. Very intriguing, very interesting how these lovely ladies escaped the classification of death dealers. And yet all these others that I named off at the beginning are more known today than the siren. Very, very intriguing. So much so that in some cases, some of the literature out there, just on the siren, if they've gotten you to kill yourself, they will then turn around and feast upon your flesh so that you have no way of returning. Oh, that's good, John. Okay. Yeah, it'll be up. But I wanted to do this video because of the fact that I found it interesting because the banshee, the siren themselves, are omens of death, but they're also classified as ladies, women, just like the succubi or succubus. Okay, very interesting. Even the ladies of vengeance themselves, out of Greek mythology, spirits of vengeance. Doesn't matter who they went after of doing evil. And I'll do a video on them later, but this is about the sirens. You see all these classifications of women. What was it about women and the feminine aspect that the old world, these ancients, viewed as threats? What was it about them that viewed them for damnation? Was it because they had some form of psychic ability, like being a medium, reader, maybe a singer? Do you know how many women we have today that could really capture the attention of a man, a woman, even, depending if you're lesbian, straight, you know, gay, whatever. Your sexual orientation doesn't matter. It's the fact that in this aspect, between the singing, that lullaby, if you wish to call it that, that was that lore, and when you opened yourself up to it, it sank in deep. So I found it very, very intriguing because, like I said, I look around in this world. We have this coronavirus that is sweeping the world. It literally swept the world. People are making it into a mass hysteria. And then you have these others who I find, who literally, I mean, if we think about it, half the United States is burning right now due to wildfires. The other half is rioting like crazy. Okay? You can't even watch the news or read the newspaper without seeing some form of racism or rioting because of racism. Perhaps some kind of death took place. Very intriguing, isn't it? It's almost apocalyptic if you think about it. I mean, chapter 6 in the book of Revelations describes the four horsemen being unleashed onto the world, but when you get between chapters four, let's go with 7 and 9, it talks about the seven trumpets, the seven bowls, and the seven sins. When we look at the seven bowls, this is supposedly plagues, riots, and all this other shit that's going on today. But it's nothing new. It's been going on for 2,500 years. It's just wrapped up with a pretty new bow. And the thing is, and this is what caught my attention while I was reading about these lovely ladies, is that even though you got half the country burning, the other half rioting, and then you have the political aspects, people taking a stand and literally raising a fuss and a ruckus on shit that has nothing to do with occultism or any form of magical or mythological, even supernatural spiritualism type workings, such as criminal activities, will literally form cults just to gain your money, to gain your loyalty, and to take from you. Basically, abuse of power. You look at these cops in some of these cities, they're targeting African Americans, they're targeting white, different aspects of the community. I mean, one even showed an elderly man being knocked over, a concussion, and had to spend a couple days in the hospital with stitches. Nobody made a fuss about that. Hell, I was out at my mother's house the other day, and you had this college kid somewhere. I want to say he was like down like Pennsylvania or some place down like that. Where you go to college. One of these colleges. Apparently, he was diagnosed with corona just one day before, and a news crew caught this kid's case and wanted to interview him. When they caught up to him, he was throwing a mass party at a beach resort. You see my point? People are so wrapped up in things that they don't see what's going on. But for something to change, something has to be destroyed. It's just the way of things. Has the Tower card in the tarot card decks taught you nothing? I mean, think about it. What does criminal activity have to do with religious-based philosophies? What does it have to do with political gain? Absolutely nothing. Because mages and sages have nothing to do with the mundane world. We are simply ambassadors between the spirits in the world. We do not limit ourselves to encampments or put ourselves into adversities. The left-hand path, the right-hand path, these are just means of control. If you want true freedom, learn from the spirits. Get in touch with your spirituality. Whatever path relates to you as an individual. Because sooner or later, these lovely ladies are going to come. And when they do, it's not going to be pretty. These ancient gods are coming back. And humanity is too fucking stupid to see the signs. You got these blinders on that you're not seeing the bigger picture. They're trying to tell you something. Pestilence, war, famine, and death have all come forth. And pretty soon, the banshees are coming. The wraith are coming. The reavers are coming. The zombie. Well, maybe not the zombie. But these other spirits are going to appear and start doing their thing. The sirens call, the Sirens Song, it's getting ready to sing. Some of us see this happening. Some of us see and feel and sense something huge coming. Now, personally, I would rather be right with the spirits than with the world, because I answer to them just as much as I answer to you. If I had to choose you or them, I would choose them in a heartbeat, because I am employed by them. Everything that I have today, I have learned from them. They are the ones that have led me. They are the ones that taught me. I didn't have teachers or guides. I had a couple gurus that shared some tips, tidbits, but never went into detail. I've had a few role models in my life. But I would choose the spirits over you any day. Because if we follow the world, you end up with an oversized ego. You end up becoming a popularitist. Okay? You get to it becomes all about numbers. It becomes all about popularity. It becomes a pissing contest. Magic has nothing to do with these things. Working with spirits has nothing to do with these things. You want to grow? You want to learn? You want to ascend? Get your priorities in straight. Only you can do that. Only you can look at your life with a centered, good head on your shoulders, and decide for yourself. Do I want to be right with the spirits, my ancestors, or do I want to live as a sheep within the world? One of the reasons I had to take a step back from dark sorcery was because of things that were going on in my own backyard. Not only were the spirits speaking to me, they were literally screaming in my ear that something big was coming, that I needed to pay attention to what they were saying and what they were trying to show me. Yesterday, in the mail, we got a notice from the landlord that they're jacking up our rent again. Basically meaning they want us out. The question is why? We're always on time with the rent. We're always quiet. But yet the spirits are showing us something, showing me something. And it's not just me. I can name off 4 other practitioners that are seeing the exact same thing transpiring. It's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, which is why it is always good to be centered, to remain humbled, and to look at the bigger picture. Let the spirits lead you. If the sirens tap me on the shoulder, I will work for them out of my free will because there's things that I can learn from them just as much as fulfilling their nature, their need, their work. Can you say the same? Think about that for just a moment. A lot of people will sit there and say, well, this God spoke to me. Well, this God spoke to me. This God has spoke to me. I had a vision about this or that. What were you doing at the time? Doing shrooms, doing drugs, drinking yourself into oblivion? This is no way. That's called a false state of mind. It's an illusion. It's a mind-altering drug, a narcotic. When you learn truly to evolve and listen and learn from these spirits, when you make pacts and deals with these spirits, they will lead you. They will lead you to fruitful, and beneficial futures. But you got to get out of your own way. For now, I want you to think about the Sirens Song. I want you to get into their mythology. Do it for yourselves, not because I'm telling you to. It's up to you if you want to get into it or not. Learn about the different types of souls. Learn about the different types of sirens and what they can do for the practitioner. More so, look at what they can do for you. Think of them as messengers from the gods. You work for them, they put in a good word. You become an employee of theirs. Magnificent, isn't it? But like I said, do it for you. Look into Greek mythology. Look into some of the Greek philosophers who spoke upon them. Look into Jason and the Argonauts. Look into Homer's Odyssey and Odysseus. Get into these old myths and these legends and see what you get out of it. And trust me, these are just some of the topics. A small little tidbit of what's truly out there. Choice is yours. I cannot and will not make that decision for you. That is something for you to do. You want to stay in the same old, or do you want to evolve? Only you can answer that. So until next time, Agios Satanas. I'm out.